I sat down with Virginia's Governor Terry McAuliffe earlier today to discuss trade, the success of Virginia economically, and how the governors are taking charge.
I don't spend a lot of time competing against other states because that gets very expensive to do that. I'm trying to get companies who want to come to America, if you want to do business in the country, use Virginia as the gateway. Dulles International Airport. I have the deepest port on the East Coast. I have very low taxes. We haven't raised our taxes in 30 years. Very business-friendly regulations. I got 28 miles of waterfront at Virginia Beach. I got mountains. You come to Virginia Beach, we don't have sharks. We have dolphins. They pick up your kids. They give them rides. They drop them off. I got 326 wineries, 225 craft breweries, 56 distilleries, and 22 cideries. 8 varieties of oysters. You eat our oysters. You drink our beer, our wine. Virginia's for lovers. You figure out everything else.
And how worried are you about the rhetoric about trade, about this president saying he's considering termination of the NAFTA agreement?
Very concerned. I just got back from Japan last week. I was in Europe a couple weeks before. I have been in a dozen countries since President Trump has taken office. I now have to spend the first half an hour in every meeting I have overseas trying or attempting to explain what the heck is going on in Washington, D.C. and the Trump administration. As I just said, I had a record amount of trade last year. You give me a trade deal that's fair, that protects worker rights, environmental rights, I can compete against anybody in the globe, and I can win, and I can bring these businesses back to the Commonwealth of Virginia. This argument that, we're going to put walls up, that hurts us. And it hurts people who actually are recruiting good-paying jobs, which is what governors do. We have to create jobs every day. That's our job. And you have a lot of people involved in this process who've never created a job in their life. They're putting walls up around our country, and they're making it hard for us. Give us a fair trade deal. We can compete. We're the greatest nation on earth. But this idea we got to exclude countries and make it difficult. I was just in Mexico. I was just in Canada. Large trading partners with, obviously, Virginia and America. Mexico doesn't have a clue as to what is going on, and we do a lot of business with them, and they're baffled by what's going on, the remarks coming out of Washington. Canada is the same way. I remind you, you look at the business that has come in from Mexico, the products that come in, 40% are made by U.S. companies. People got to understand what global trade actually means.
Can you give them a satisfying answer when they say what's going on in Washington? Do you have a clearer sense of what this administration's trade policy is?
No, and it's sad because one day they say one thing, another day they say the next. They are hurting. I have said this to the president directly. Your actions are hurting my ability as a governor to create jobs. From the travel ban to the immigration policy to the different stances on international trade, have all created problems for us who are trying to bring jobs to our respective states. What do people want from their elected officials? They want a good, high-paying, quality job, a great education system, roads that actually work, and health care that keeps them healthy. That's it. It's not rocket science. And unfortunately, the actions of the Trump administration have really hurt all of those areas, let it be health care, on education. Where's their infrastructure? I wish they'd done infrastructure day one. We don't have any money for infrastructure. And clearly, the actions they're taking on trade are hurting our ability to compete. Get their head out of the sand. Let us do what we need to do. We're the greatest nation on earth. We need to sell our goods, and we need to bring businesses here to America. We don't put walls up. I told the Mexican president and his cabinet when I met with him in Mexico, Virginia doesn't build walls. We build bridges for economic opportunity.
Let me ask you lastly here. It strikes me that amid all of the dysfunction here in Washington, D.C., states are taking on more responsibility. They're doing more. They're working together more. Would you agree that's the case? And how much of what you've done in Virginia is replicatable elsewhere?
No, that's a very important point. And I just completed my term as chairman of the National Governors Association. And we just had my final meeting up in Rhode Island. We had all the governors there. And for the first time, we invited Prime Minister Trudeau. For the first time, we governors invited world leaders back to meet with us. We had delegations from China, from Japan. We said, forget all the insanity that's going on in Washington, D.C. Don't pay attention to all this ridiculous clutter you're hearing. Do business directly with us as governors. You come to Virginia or you go to any state, do business with us. We'll love to do business with you. We want to create economic opportunity. And this is the first time that's actually happened. So now you're seeing folks bypassing the ineffectiveness in Washington. There is nothing happening in Washington. And they're going to the states where we are incubators for innovation and growth. As related to the climate change, it's interesting. This is the big point. You always hear about federalism, but when the president pulled out of the Paris climate change agreement, What did we do as governors? I was the first governor to step up and say, I'm going to do my own deal. We're going to do it ourselves. Now you have the governors, forget the federal government, the governors are coming together collectively to say, no, 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 no. Climate change is real. It's important. We got to do something about it. And we, the governors, will lead. Forget Washington. Forget the president. We're going to lead.